The Hog's Die is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of thehogsdie.com.
By fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hog's Die, DC's unofficial leading source for all things Redskins. Let's get into it. My name's Sean, the whole crew's here for another great episode today. How about we do a little roll call, say who you are, and then tell me your favorite breakfast food as I continue to eat this bacon, egg, and cheese on air like I did last week. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing fine. See, you bring this up so because you don't want to be called out, so you just throw the bad stuff right out there, right up front this time, so we couldn't make fun of you. And that just
You're
really
right.
That really ruins the fun of it for me. What was it?
Yeah.
You know what's funny is the word strategery came up on the business show, which we just recorded this morning too.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah. Chris.
It's going to be a strategic day.
Our friend Rich said the word strategery.
Yeah, I hacked y'all webcam, so I heard everything y'all was talking about.
Oh, that's kind of frightening, actually. What was the question, Sean? Favorite breakfast food? Oh,
yeah,
God.
What's your favorite breakfast food, Steve?
I don't really eat a lot of breakfast. I can do without breakfast, frankly.
I'm going to guess your favorite food.
Okay,
I'm going to say
guess.
MREs.
The MREs don't really have breakfasty stuff in them.
No, beef stroganoff and things like that.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. And the beef stroganoff looks exactly like the chicken Alfredo. It looks the same thing.
It all kind of looks like a white, pasty. I've had one or two in my life. It's interesting.
They're awful. There's no thought. At the time when you're starving, they're good, but later it's like, oh, God, why did I eat this? No, okay, I'm gonna throw waffles out there though. If you talk about my very favorite all-time breakfast food, it'd probably be a waffle. I don't eat it very much, but
I mean, a waffle's good. You can put a lot of different things on it, and
do you not know me, Alex?
Yeah, I know. You probably just do simple fake syrup, right? You're probably not even a maple syrup person.
No, it's maple syrup. That's the only syrup that anyone should be allowed to have is maple syrup.
See, I would have pegged you for an Aunt Jemima fake maple syrup thing.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
No.
Aunt Jemima. Isn't that... I'm not... the real maple syrup is awful. Like Vermont maple syrup out of a tree.
Insane.
No.
Just insane things that Steve spouts about food.
I was literally... When you said maple syrup, the only thing my mind went to was Aunt Jemima, honestly.
Okay. Well, that's gross.
I was going to be disappointed with my answer.
Yeah. Okay.
What's your favorite breakfast, Alex?
Well, all right. So
I feel like Alex is going to have a great answer.
It's going to be awful. It's going to be some frou-frou-y.
No, it's actually not frou-frou at all. I mean, it's not like I'm going to say I don't go to like places and have weird exotic brunches, but for me, it's biscuits and gravy. That is my number one. If I want to like just pig out for breakfast, I get me some biscuits and gravy.
It's like literally like pasting fat on you, but it's very good.
Yeah, exactly. It's delicious.
I don't think I ever had that for breakfast. Like as a concentrate, like a specific meal. I probably had biscuits and gravy before though, but
you've never had it for breakfast. Okay.
You've obviously never been in the military. If you've never had biscuits and gravy, you've never been in a military chow line.
Now,
or in the deep south.
Don't quote me on it because I'm pretty sure I probably had it before.
You realize you're on the air, right? I mean, we're quoting yourself.
We're going to quote you.
I do not remember this in my last decade of life. I don't remember it.
Sure.
So, I mean, look, Alex, if you like it, and Steve, if you like it, good. Excellent.
To each his own. You guys be as weird as you want to be.
It's not like I could eat it every day. I'd die. But, once in a blue moon, it's great.
Yeah.
And my mother-in-law makes an amazing biscuits and gravy. It's the only good reason to go visit my in-laws.
Yeah, food is the only reason to specifically make a trip to visit your in-laws. Yeah. That's the only reason that you should do that. All right, let's move on from
Jamal can't get away.
Oh, we didn't get Jamal's breakfast. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say I had food in my mouth already. But so now I'm eating Belvita breakfast biscuits, which is pretty damn good.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
But
I haven't had it.
My favorite I'd say is actually waffles too. I kind of like waffles. Second is French toast, and last is pancakes. In terms of my favorite breakfast meals, you know, Alex, I'm sorry, but log cabin syrup is probably like the best.
Log cabin.
Log cabin.
Is that fake syrup or is that real syrup? I don't even know. I've only seen it.
Oh, I mean, I'd assume if you had an issue with Aunt Jemima, it's his direct competitor. It's log cabin.
Yeah. So, you would consider it fake, you food snob.
Yeah, you would consider it fake.
Yeah, food snob is going to turn their nose up at log cabin like he did at Aunt Jemima. But
Aunt Jemima,
yeah, so
I'm going to stand up for Aunt Jemima. It's a great lady.
There you go. And I ain't got no problem with Aunt Jemima either.
I prefer my syrup to come from wood, like a real man. I'm sorry.
This is the food hour on the Hogsty.
Yeah.
I actually, my dad had a friend who had a maple syrup farm when I was a kid. That was pretty cool to see. So, it's an interesting process.
So. If you say so.
Yeah.
Bet you didn't expect this, folks at home, when you tuned into the Hogsty this morning, but you're getting it anyway. We always like to give you a little extra right here. But anyways, let's move on. We've got some actual football to talk about. I promise we can actually get into it. Steve, you had a poll this week, as you almost always do.
Almost.
Let's talk about that right up front. Listen to what the beautiful fans are saying.
Okay. First of all, I put this poll up many hours late, so if you didn't get to vote, my apologies. It's my fault. But the poll question this week was, in light of the start of free agency, what position group should be the biggest priority for the Redskins in free agency this week, or next week, which is coming up? And the choices were O-line, defensive front seven, running backs and or wide receivers, or defensive backs. So those are the four choices. Again, it's, hashtag Twitter limitations. We can't get them all in there, so you kind of have to group them together. So let's start with Alex this week. Alex, what do you think the fans would have voted for, and what is your personal view on this subject?
I mean, I think we're going to my personal views, I think we're going to plug multiple starting holes in free agency this year.
Yeah, but biggest priority,
yeah,
though.
Okay. Well, my biggest priority would be wide receiver, and I think that's probably where the fans are going to go. With some of the moves we just saw made that we're going to get into later, in pre-free agency, some of that might change because I think a couple big names have been moved and, are not going to be out there like we had hoped. But I'm going to say wide receiver is the big priority.
Okay. Jamal, what do you think?
I think that receiver, I believe that the fans would say receiver. I don't know about defensive back. I think everybody have their eyes set on Allen Robinson and Paul Richardson. So I would say receiver. But I also personally would feel that receiver would be the priority, seeing as how there's a good crop of receivers coming out in free agency. Either that or defensive line, actually, in terms of the fans. Receiver or defensive line. Mm-hmm. But I personally would go receiver.
Okay. Sean?
Give me the other three options real quick again.
The options were offensive line, defensive front seven, running backs and or wide receivers, and DBs.
Yeah. I think that you guys have hit the nail on the head, Jamal and Alex, but I am going to say, I guess just to be a little different, I think it's going to be wide receiver. I'm going to answer in the affirmative wide receiver for myself. I'm going to guess that the fans maybe said running back. I'm just going to try to be a little different. Well,
that's the same. Because that's one thing.
It was one category. The one category was running backs / wide receiver because I didn't have another you're limited to 4 choices.
Well, then I hate to say it, guys, but I can't be different or interesting on this one. I'm just gonna to agree with everything you said.
We're all going to be homogenous and be the same. No, okay. Well, there were 2 haves and 2 have-nots in this poll this week. By a vote of 48%, the defensive front seven actually was number one in eyes of the fans. And then the running back wide receiver was in second place by a vote of 36% of the vote.
Pretty close.
And then bringing up the rear was O-line at 9% and DBs at 7%. I threw DBs in there intentionally because I thought maybe people were still keyed up over losing the Hall of Famer, Kendall Fuller.
Right, and
who's going to be in the small who's going to be in the small room of the Hall of Fame someday, apparently, according to some fans who just can't help themselves. But anyway, so
Steve, you troll. Stop trolling our fans, Steve.
Well, Alex, you don't, or Sean, you don't see the Twitter the Twitter mentions about this. We got hundreds and hundreds of oh my God, Kendall Fuller, how can we possibly lose him? It's awful.
People were in a tizzy, I'd say.
Oh yeah, it just we got literally easily several hundred. Oh my
God. That's why I don't go on Twitter, Steve.
Yeah, you're probably right.
It's a volatile place.
I don't know how I got stuck with it. Okay, but we're going to read a few comments here. We got a decent number of comments on this week. First one I'm going to read is from Sean, who is it's not Sean Conti. It's some other Sean.
Not me. No.
It is at Florida Skins fan for life.
Sean is not in Florida.
No, I'm not.
He may be in Florida. We don't really know.
You don't know. That's true. Could be right outside in a van.
It could be right onto my driveway, and I'm not even aware of it. Okay, anyway, Sean writes, might sound crazy, but if Breland walks, then a shot at Sherman should happen. Him teamed with Norman while Moreau develops would help that secondary out.
I've heard other people suggest that. That's not...
Well, I read his comment for a reason. Yeah. I think we need to talk about this, Richard Sherman. Let me get through a couple of
$250 million sounds right for the cornerbacks, I would say. Sounds right for the cornerback
yeah, exactly. We'll go with Big Willie, not from Philly, who is at Born to HTTR. He writes, with the moves the Eagles and Giants have made, the O-line should be high on the list. Receivers do Alex no good if he's running for his life. Valid point.
Yeah, good point.
Michael at Hutchinson D21 writes, much better. He's got a little grammar issue in here. Your English teacher should be ashamed of herself, Michael. He writes, much better off taking receiver. We can still sign defensive linemen such as Bo Allen and a running back such as Isaiah Kroll. And believe me, Michael, that was me editing your post in my head.
So he went to the same school I went to.
Yeah, exactly right. Because Alex, newsflash, Alex's grammar is terrible.
Oh, yeah.
What you read is the translated version of me hacking through what he writes. Okay, and the last one I'll read here is at JSC, I guess it's JS Chillin is how it reads. JSCHLLN. He writes, we need another DB in free agency to replace Breland, or he needs to be re-signed. We can pick up line needs in the draft. If Matthew or Sherman is available, Skins need help on the backside. We need depth.
My goodness.
We need depth on the line, starters in the second draft. So he pretty much covered the entire gamut in one comment.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, personally for me, since I would have voted O-line on this because we literally don't have a starting guard on the roster. We kind of need one.
Yeah.
Recognizing the fact that I just said last week that we should draft one, but if we can get the reason I said that is for financial reasons. If we can get a cheap one that's good, that's the biggest need. Either that or wide receiver. Those are the two big ones for me.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
I wanted to start out, because and there were more comments in here about Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman got released by the Seahawks this past week. Do we want Richard Sherman? Are we interested in him? I know my answer, which is a no.
My God, no. Yeah. My God, no. I am really surprised to hear two separate people write in.
And that wasn't it.
I've heard a couple people say they would love to get him on like a 1 or 2 year deal. Just seeing it on social media and stuff like that. I tend to be in the no category because why overspend? If you're going to spend that money, pay Breland and keep Breland around.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone defend. One of you guys defend for me the idea of bringing Sherman onto this team for even a 1 or 2 year deal. I think even that's a waste of time.
I personally, I don't. First and foremost, I'm against it. But the case can be made for Sherman because he's still an elite cornerback. He himself yesterday posted his stats since 2011. It was 2 numbers: quarterback rating, three: quarterback rating, quarterback completion percentage, and number of interceptions since 2011.
Right.
And he was top 5 in every single category, and I think top 3 in a couple. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I don't have the stats in front of me right now or the picture that he posted. However, point is, they think that he lost his step. He only had an Achilles injury. He is older in age. 29, I think, pushing 30. But that Sherman is smart. He's the same caliber cornerback that Josh Norman is in terms of mental. They're both physical as well. And he's also a guy who's not afraid to tackle. Mm-hmm. Like, he's a physical corner. He'll get in your face. He also is a trash talker like Norman. it is. I mean, it is what it is. He's a hell of a cornerback if you want to get him, but that will be the argument for him.
Yeah. I mean, he's about to turn 30, in March, so he's going to be 30 by the time the season starts. I mean, like Jamal said, the argument for him is that he's an elite corner, and if you pair him and Norman together, you'd have one of the best defensive. You'd have
probably the best, right?
Probably the best. Certainly the most accomplished set of corners in the league, particularly then you'd have Quentin Dunbar and Fabian Moreau fighting for the backup roles. So that's the argument for it. I mean, the only downside, I don't mind the fact that he talks. I'll get past that.
When you have a guy like that on your team, you don't mind it nearly as much as when he's on another team.
Yeah, and Richard Sherman is a smart guy. He's not saying stupid things.
Right.
He's actually a very smart guy. He went to Stanford.
What would a 1-year contract with him look like, Steve?
Oh, it's gonna be Norman size. You're talking 15, 16 million.
Right.
And so that's the problem is you'd have over 30 million just between the two of those guys alone.
Right.
And then we have Dunbar's contract, which is another couple million, and then the rookie. So it's a lot of money. That's the downside. And really the other thing is the Achilles. He's coming off an Achilles. He's 30 years old. There's not a lot of players that can come back from an Achilles and look like himself. And Richard Sherman's game never was speed in the first place. Mm-hmm. Sherman is not a speed guy. He's, as Jamal said, he's a tactician. He's smart. He's not a guy who's going to hang one-on-one with Deshaun Jackson. So how slow can he get and still be effective?
I'll tell you my one thing I'd also, and this was probably not fair to Sherman, but he also had all the success playing with arguably the best safety tandem behind him in the NFL at the same time. That's not to say he's not a talented corner, but when you have Chancellor back there, I mean, that's a big safety valve for a lot of guys.
Plus, is there a question still on how he would be used? Is his sticking to one side of the field, has that continued to this point in his career?
I think so,
Yes. Well, look, I mean, Josh Norman doesn't rotate too much either.
Yeah.
I mean, they started doing it a little bit, but if you have two elite guys, you really could just leave Norman on one side
Coaches
and Sherman
like doing
on the other
that,
and be fine.
Yeah.
It makes it less complicated.
Makes sense, yeah. I mean, it's kind of easier to game plan for the players and the coaches, I would imagine.
Right.
Yeah, that's just way too much money. I'm surprised
for an
to hear
old guy who's been injured.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so much obvious issues with this team. It's just surprising to hear people targeting that as a main priority.
I mean,
we have to remember people don't obsess over every move,
right?
Like you do, like we do on this show, because we have to. I mean, people see a name like Richard Sherman, go, "Well, we got to get him," and I understand that,
right?
But we're just telling you from people who do this every day that there's a lot of risk associated with something like that. It would throw havoc into the salary cap. That's the other thing.
Yeah. I mean, we have some cap room to play with, but that would eat up a chunk of it.
We'd be giving a huge bit of it away to him.
Yeah.
People like the sexy acquisitions. They don't want to hear about a guard. They want the big,
cornerback.
Right.
Exactly.
When Jarvis Landry got traded away, they was like, well, why the Redskins couldn't do such and such? I'm like, they gave up 2 draft picks for him, right? Why would we give up draft capital for Jarvis? And they said, well, we don't have a number 1 receiver, and he's dead.
No, and there. I mean, if you look at what the Browns traded for Landry, it's not a bad trade on their part.
Yeah, but they're going to sign him to a huge, massive contract.
Yeah, they're signing him to
a ton of cap
deal,
space,
right? I mean,
that's the problem. Is Landry? I mean, he was the number 1 free agent on my list, in my column from a month ago, because he's an elite performer, and I realize his limitation is yards per catch. Okay, but the man catches everything,
right?
Absolutely everything.
He's got that Pierre Garçon effect where he can catch everything.
But his contract is you're going to pay $15 million a year for this guy, at least.
That's what premium players cost now, and people need to
and that's just
kind of accept that.
And that's just not what is in the Redskins' wallet this year.
No.
Yeah, well, that's actually a great segue. So let's move into a greater discussion about free agency transactions, because there's been some moves within the last few days. In fact, there's been quite a few. So let's go over some of the bigger ones that we have seen.
Well, we just touched on probably the biggest name just now with Landry, right?
Jarvis Landry.
With Landry. Yeah. One team probably stands out above others, though, with the amount of transactions going on right now, right? Which would be Cleveland.
Right.
The Cleveland Browns are recreating the movie Draft Day as we speak.
Yeah.
Well, they have made kind of a lot of moves, and Alex, I know you kind of had something to say about that too. So let's talk maybe about the insanity that is the Cleveland Browns right now.
Yeah, well,
besides Landry.
Okay, so we just touched on Landry. The other biggest name was obviously Tyrod Taylor, who they got from the Bills for a third-round pick, I think. It was not much.
Not much.
Yeah, and then they traded away their, rookie from last year, Deshaun Kaiser, which that's the move I don't understand personally.
Why are they giving up on Kaiser so quickly? I thought Kaiser had talent. I thought Hugh Jackson. I like Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson mismanaged him. They yanked him in and out of the lineup. Right. I think if you put him with a better team in a better situation, Kaiser still has a chance.
Well, he's going to a better team now. He's going to be with the Packers, so that's
you're right. I bet he's going to be. His destiny is Aaron Rodgers' backup.
Right. Hey, that's not a bad, not a bad gig.
I mean, I'll take it.
About to say the rate of Aaron Rodgers get hurt, shoot. Yeah, that's not a bad deal.
Well, I mean, and he's definitely an upgrade for the Pack in terms of a backup. Because I don't even remember the guy they had last year, but he was not.
Brett Hundley.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I mean, it's a case of the Browns having so many draft picks.
Yeah,
they're okay with throwing some away.
Yeah, I saw somebody posted that they still have 5 picks in the top 65 or something.
Well, it's like Deshaun Kaiser was a second-round pick last year, I believe, and they just threw him in the trash can, basically.
Yeah.
After 1 year of him being clearly mismanaged, I feel bad for the guy. I really do. But at least he's in a better team. But look, I mean, the Browns, I think, have gone from a disaster to having an elite offense in about 3 hours. Because if you think about this, they're going to have Tyrod Taylor.
Right.
They can still draft one of the top. Pick your name.
They need to get Saquon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point. They're going to probably draft Saquon number 1 overall, and then they can pick a quarterback, with the 4th pick.
Right.
And so to develop, and so they're probably going to re-sign Josh Gordon. He's an exclusive rights free agent.
So they'll have 2 really good receivers, a great running back, and Tyrod Taylor can hold things down. Right.
Right. They're going to go from and they're going to have Joe Thomas coming back, from his injury on top of that. So they're going to go from an unproductive, incapable offense to something that is dangerous, like literally in the course of hours. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Jamal? Because I remember from the old All 32 days, you were kind of disappointed with the treatment of Tyrod Taylor, and I kind of like Tyrod Taylor too. So what do you think about this transaction for him and his prognosis for the future?
I don't know. I'm not, and it's not on him. It's more so Hugh Jackson. And we know what he's done the last 2 years he has a great reputation as offensive coordinator.
Right.
The things that he did in Cincinnati was great. It was outstanding. His 1 year in Oakland, I can't say I don't remember how good the offense was.
Well,
but
they went
overall,
8-8, right?
Yeah, exactly. Overall, they went 8-8. With the Browns, obviously context matters. Different story. Roster's not good. They're very young, and experienced. However, the way you treated quarterbacks there, and specifically Deshaun Kaiser, just this past year, the quarterback rotation, how easy you were ready to pull somebody. I understand he had a lot of turnovers, but why was he even in there in the first place?
Yeah.
Given that we knew he needed time. Like everybody knew he needed time. But anyway, point is the fact that I'm not necessarily sure, based on his time in Cleveland, how Tyrod Taylor will pan out because of the fact that Hugh Jackson has been so inconsistent, and has been ready to he's just been too far on edge, if that makes sense. So I can't necessarily say I'm happy for him that he has a new start, and the fact that the offense will be a little bit better, especially if they get Saquon. It'll be a dynamic offense. You have Coleman coming back, Josh Gordon. You have Jarvis Landry now. You have Njoku at tight end. Already have Duke Johnson, who's a hell of a running back and a receiving threat. And then you got Saquon, a decent offensive line as well already. So you have something there that'll help Tyrod. And he doesn't have to do much already. He doesn't turn the ball over as it is. So you'll have a lot of opportunity for that team to be successful because of Tyrod being their quarterback. So it just depends.
It's impressive, but I don't see that as a 500 team still. So I don't know.
I don't know if they gel, they could be. And the thing is, Tyrod came from a running offense already.
Yeah, that's true.
The Bills were a very strong running team, and that looks like the Browns probably will be again if Saquon is as advertised, and there's no reason to believe he won't be. I think they have a chance to be special. I'm a Josh Gordon fan in terms of what he brings to the football field. The drug stuff aside, I hope he's got that part of his life worked out. But they're going to have some serious weapons. Because who do you cover if you play the Browns? Do you stuff the box to stop Saquon Barkley and leave Josh Gordon and Jarvis Landry 1-on-1? That's not a good plan. If Tyrod can in any way be competent, and he has been.
But he's not a gunslinger, though. Let's be clear. Taylor
doesn't need to be a gunslinger.
Yeah,
what is Jarvis Landry's game?
For 4,000 yards or anything like that, has he?
That's because that wasn't the Bills' game, and they didn't have receivers for it. But what is Jarvis Landry's game? Slot receiver.
Sure.
He short passes. That's his game. And Josh Gordon can do everything.
Right.
And so I don't think he needs to be a gunslinger. But when you have as running back as capable as Saquon Barkley probably is going to be, I don't think you need to be a gunslinger.
No, probably not. I mean, like I said, I think it's going to be a big improvement. I just don't know if that's more than a 8-8 team even after.
You know what concerns me far more than the Browns?
Yeah.
What?
The Eagles' defensive line.
Yeah, they got a little better.
Wait, hold on. Before we get to that, I just want to say, because we have, for the last few years, it's like we've kept company with the Browns and like the Raiders, for example, and a couple other teams at the bottom of the league. If the Browns really do turn a corner and become a much more consistent and dependable team,
right?
And the signs show that they've definitely upgraded. This is rough, guys. I don't know who we're keeping company with anymore. I really don't. The Raiders have definitely turned the corner on it. The Browns are could potentially be turning the corner now. It's really disappointing.
Well, the good news is
that's so depressing.
Who the dregs of the NFL with us? You mean?
Well, but we're not the dregs
exactly
either. We've been
we're not.
500 the last 3 years, so that's where
we've upgraded to mediocre.
Yeah,
we've upgraded to mediocre, and I think we might actually. If you
want to know who's going to go to the dregs, it's probably someone like Arizona will go back now that they don't have a quarterback anymore, or somewhere like that.
Well, I mean, once Larry Fitzgerald retires,
that's going to be a huge blow to them. Yeah.
Or maybe Seattle, since they're getting rid of their entire defense.
Seattle has a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, they're overpaying him.
One up on us.
That's another matter.
Yeah.
But the Eagles, no. What concerns me about the Eagles?
Yeah, let's talk about the Eagles.
That I'm not a Michael Bennett fan for reasons that are not on the field reasons, so I'll leave that alone. But strictly from an on the field thing. Michael Bennett brings another strong defensive presence to a defensive line that already had a bunch of studs on it.
Yeah,
it's a problem.
Yeah,
it is, and they traded a song for him, basically a 5th-round pick in Marcus Johnson.
Yeah,
which isn't really much. And I recognize that Bennett is older. Is he? I think he's 32 now.
He'll be 33 this year. Yeah.
Okay, so he'll be 33 this year. But when you're a defensive lineman, I think as long as you're healthy, you can kind of go a little bit longer. So it bothers me, but not that much. But it's clearly a sign of the Eagles loading up for the right now.
Yeah.
Because they got the Super Bowl. They want the gravy train to continue.
I think they know that their window is the next 2 or 3 years until Carson Wentz gets his mega deal that he'll get, and that'll probably, rip up their whole roster because that's what happens.
That'll destroy their team.
And so if you're a team like the Redskins – what does this mean to the Redskins? It means you need to focus on your offensive line and make sure it's tied down because that Eagles team is going to bring a ton of pressure.
And they'll do it with just 4 guys, too. That'll be the scary part.
Yeah. And a very nice rotation, so they'll be fresh for days.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and
Alex Smith, your scrambling you're gonna get paid for your scrambling.
Fortunately, he's a good scrambler.
Right.
He may need
run pass option, pass option all day. That's what you'll need to do.
He's one of the best scramblers in the league, and we're gonna need him to.
We're gonna need it.
The other move they did make that we talked about before the show was Torrey Smith to the Panthers for Darryl Worley, and I
always liked Torrey Smith.
I always liked Torrey Smith. I've kind of said that he would have been my Deshaun Jackson replacement if the team had wanted to invest in something, even though he's
clearly didn't.
Yeah, which they
clearly
definitely
did not want to.
Yeah, they did not want to invest a dime into replacing a speed receiver, did they?
Ryan Grant was the answer.
Right.
How'd that go?
Yeah.
It worked out great. I don't know what you're talking about, Steve. Wouldn't have done anything different. Just kidding.
Yeah.
No,
right,
but anyway, the Eagles. Agency? Yeah, I mean the Eagles certainly focus on that. The Giants improved themselves.
Yeah.
Already this week, they traded for Alex Ogletree, the linebacker. From
Man,
the
they had nowhere to go but up. They really had nowhere to go but up.
Well,
in
the
a lot
other
of places
thing
on that team.
about the Giants is the rumor is that they're going to sign the guard Norwell, who was the #1 guard prospect on free agency, and so because their offensive line was terrible, and so he's going to take up a lot of cap space. But they've improved their defensive front seven, and they're probably about to prove their O-line. So that's the Giants trying to make moves.
How much money the Giants get?
I don't know.
I don't think they have a ton. I'd have to look myself, but
keep talking, and I'll look it up.
Well, I mean, here's the thing about the Ogletree move. The Giants seem to do this every couple of years. They go after someone else's linebacker to kind of fill in their hole, and it works for 2 or 3 years. I mean, remember they did it to us a couple times where they took an ex-linebacker from us.
Yeah, they did.
But it hasn't necessarily worked out every time. I think that team, when they're at their best, they're always focusing on the front four, and the linebackers are just kind of guys back there. At least in the you go back to the 80s, maybe it's a little different, but I'm talking about the 2000s. That's kind of
like the Giants have got about $13.5 million in cap space.
That's not much. That's not much at all.
Yeah, that's not
but
much
that's
at
after all. Ogletree. That's after Ogletree, though. So I'm sure there's a way.
Who are they paying on that team?
Well, Eli. Eli is $22 million. Jason Pierre-Paul $17.5 million. Olivier Vernon $17 million. Yeah.
Wow.
Janoris Jenkins getting 13. Ogletree's going to get 10. Damon Harrison 9.6.
Odell Beckham supposedly wants like $20 million next year.
Yeah, not surprised.
Yeah. So they have a bunch of serious cap problems,
I mean, they're building like a lot of. It seems like there's two ways to build now. Some teams want to do this. Hey, we're going to pay 5 or 6 guys $20 million, and then everyone else is just on a rookie deal.
Is going to get pennies, yeah.
Or they try and spread it out more, and they don't have one superstar making a ton of cash.
Well, here's what I'd like to get you guys to address. I think the Redskins fan base right now is in a state of what's the word? They're distressed. They're seeing the Browns make these moves. They're seeing the Eagles make these moves. The Giants, blah blah blah. We've forgotten that the Redskins have actually made a lot of moves themselves. By trading for Alex Smith, re-signing Dunbar, re-signing Mason Foster, re-signing Everett. But I think a lot of the fans think the Redskins are just sitting on their hands. So the question is, should the Redskins have been aggressive already? Do you think they will be aggressive in this week? Because the legal tampering period opens on Monday,
right?
And then the official start of the league year is Wednesday. So are we going to see, and should we see, an aggressive Redskins front office? That's the question.
Well, I think people are probably a little bit spoiled from history, particularly, actually, it's not even, I was going to say recent history, but it goes way beyond recent history. I think people are probably just used to hearing about a major acquisition or two during the Redskins offseason. I mean, Alex Smith is a big change, but people are probably more used to, a flashy new player of some sort. He's
it's
more
not the Bruce
tried and
Smith,
true, dependable.
Deion Sanders move. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. It's not the marquee. Yeah. Exactly.
Thank God.
So I think that's probably partially where people are coming from. But look, you've had tons of years where the Redskins make a flurry of moves and get super aggressive in free agency. Why don't we try to develop our homegrown talent for once a little bit and keep some people on this team? I don't hate it. I don't necessarily think being overly aggressive makes sense for us now.
I mean, to be honest, Jay Gruden has kind of said he wants consistency. He doesn't want a lot of change anymore because he thinks that when they make a lot of turbulent changes, it doesn't work for the team's best interest. Now, he said that initially talking about the front office, but I think that's going to stem down to how they build the roster, too,
to everything.
For him.
I think you're probably right.
We did hear a rumor, and no one really knows how accurate it was, but it was Brandon Cooks from the Pats. The Pats were trying to get rid of him and were supposedly talking about the Redskins about a second-round pick for Brandon Cooks.
And let's be clear, we didn't hear that. We just saw that. We didn't. No one told us.
Oh, no. That was told to us by somebody who lives in Boston and heard on Boston radio.
Yeah. It was nothing that somebody came to the Hog side.
No. It was not insider at all.
Yeah.
And
what does that get from you? The thumbs up or thumbs down?
I don't like giving up a second rounder because I feel like our second rounder is going to be our franchise running back this draft. So,
Yeah, those high picks in the draft you need to hold on to.
Jamal, I got to hear your take on it because I know you have an opinion on Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, I liked him. I understood like before the show, you was telling me, based off the rumors, fans were against it. I would assume mainly because of the asking price. But I mean, look, excuse me. But if the Redskins are not successful, and truth be told, I do believe they will find a receiver. Doesn't matter who, but I do feel they'll find a receiver before the draft. But if you're willing to give up a second round pick for Brandon Cooks, who's a dynamic receiver in all sorts and shapes of the word itself, go ahead and make the move. Second round pick, I understand that you're gonna have a second or a third. But at the same time, it's just like if you're looking for an immediate upgrade, you're looking for that Tyreek Hill type of player that Alex Smith was used to in Kansas City. He's that type of guy. Although he's not the person who can, run the ball out of the backfield, or I haven't seen it per se. But he is the receiver that you need who can attack all points of the field. And he can definitely be the deep threat without question. So I would be down for it in terms of the second round pick. I'm not really losing sleep over it. And it is one draft.
Okay. The concern about Brandon Cooks, and I agree from an on-the-field standpoint, he would be the deep guy. We need a guy like that. He's a little speedy guy, and that's what we need. And stats-wise, I mean, the man is averaging 14.1 yards per reception on a career, which is
really good. I understand.
Yeah,
I'm not questioning his talent. I just
here's the thing:
it's a larger move.
I don't even care about that. And I get it. About the draft pick. Alex's point, I agree. I mean, if the Redskins don't find a franchise running back in the draft, something's gone really wrong, But Cook's cap hit last year $1.5 million. This year $8.5 million.
Right.
Okay, and this is his last year of his contract. He's going to be a free agent next year, and so if they trade for him, we're what comes with that is a multi-year deal comes with that. Most likely, and he's got a massive cap hit, this year. And so you'd think we could probably work on that and pay him a roster bonus and move some money around and get maybe his cap hit down a little bit. But he's going to have, it's going to be a significant amount of money. And I think that's the downside.
The fact that it's only a one-year deal that he's on too makes the second rounder seem even dumber to me.
Yeah, that's
why. But that's why what happens is you talk to his people before the trade,
right?
And you get the framework of a deal in place, so you're not giving up a second round pick to have him walk,
Right.
And so my point is, but because of the amount of money he's making, I mean, it's going to be another cap drain. But I've always said, I think, for months now that they need a wide receiver.
Right.
I don't mind them trading for one. But I do mind them trading for one if it means they can't get an elite running back in the draft.
Yeah, and to me, the cap hit's actually not that bad because
$8.5 million sure is.
But what are great receivers going for now? I mean, to me, anything under 10 is a good deal for a number one receiver.
It's just a matter. I mean, we can do it.
Yeah.
It's it's not that we can't do it. It's that you sacrifice something else.
Yeah, you don't want to create a hole somewhere else to plug this one.
But it's a hole. I mean, it's a tough. I don't mind giving up the draft pick as long as they can figure out how to get a running back, an elite running back. I'm tired of seeing 6-round picks and undrafted free agents on this team end up starting at running back. I mean, it's time to end the madness.
Yeah,
we need to hit on some draft picks. We need to absolutely,
especially
hit the bullseye.
First and second round. We need some and. Look, I still think we need to build the defense. Don't get me wrong. If they decided to go defense again on first and second rounds, I understand because we have so many needs. But we haven't had a game changer on offense, and Doxson hasn't become what we had hoped yet. But we desperately need to find somebody like that.
Were the last ones.
Yeah, and those are both trades, by the way. They're not even homegrown.
I mean. I honestly
wanted to ask this actually. Go ahead, Steve. But
I think excuse me. I actually don't think I know the fans are freaking out about the defensive line, and I get it. And, there's a group of fans that are out there that, the build the lines at all costs crowd who say that every year. I mean, I get it. But I actually don't think the defensive front seven is as big of a problem as you might think, provided that they sign Zach Brown or a replacement for Zach Brown. We've got Jonathan Allen coming back. Don't forget that this defensive line looked wholly different last year in the 6 games that Allen played. His stats don't really back it up in terms of tackles and whatnot, but
that's not his game.
He was a big difference maker. And then you have Matt Ioannidis 1 year better. I actually don't think the defensive front seven, provided we get another linebacker, is nearly as big of a crisis as running back and wide receiver, honestly. That was my point before I interrupted Sean.
No,
Sorry.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I wasn't going to say anything groundbreaking here. And you kind of alluded to this, but I was just going to ask, when was the last time this team actually drafted, let's say, a top 10 player, game-changing player?
Trent Williams.
That's kind of the only one I was coming up with.
Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed.
Yeah, Jordan Reed, maybe.
What about on? Are we just talking offense, or are we talking all sides?
If you got some good...
I mean, Kerrigan's been close. He's been a Pro Bowler a couple times, had a couple 10-sack seasons.
Kerrigan's without a doubt top 10 in his position.
Yeah. It just seems like more often than not, we end up with, if we end up with someone that stays with this team beyond a couple years, they're dependable. Mm-hmm. Well, but we can't seem to grow and develop a lights out player.
Think about this. Because I went back and looked at my draft analysis thing this past week that I wrote last year. And if you look at wide receivers in particular, really and truly the last wide receiver that this team drafted that panned out was Art Monk.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, see, that's insane.
Would you say Crowder's panning out for us at this point?
I mean, sure,
but not to
an elite talent.
Yeah,
elite, no.
Exactly.
I mean, he's an elite slot guy at this point. But that's it.
He's another one of those guys. At the end of the day, he's very dependable. Yeah. Those seem to be the guys we can get.
Certainly, Crowder has been the most successful one since Monk.
Oh yeah,
which is a sad state of affairs.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, see, just think about that sentence.
Personally, I think Ryan Grant is on his way up too. If you ask me.
Ryan Grant might not
work his way up from the. He's going to work his way up from the 5th string receiver to the 4th string receiver.
Yeah.
It's an upward trajectory.
I don't know what's going on with that one. They haven't really. It's a lot of key players that they haven't re-signed yet. I'm sure they're trying. So I wouldn't say that they're not trying, but it's a few key guys. Alex.
Well, I think like Zach Brown absolutely wants to hit free agency.
Yeah.
First, and I think Junior Gillette probably absolutely wants to hit free agency first too.
I'm cool with that.
It sounds like that's what Long wanted to, and they're just not even going to talk to him.
It sounds like they haven't talked to Gillette because he's very active on Twitter.
Yeah.
For those of you, he's a really great follow. And he has no filter whatsoever, and he's alluded to he has no filter on Twitter at all, and he's alluded to not having received an offer from the Redskins. So if you take that,
that's the one thing I can't stand about the Bruce Allen era. At least talk to the guys, see where they're at. Yeah. Like even if you don't want to bring them back,
to is not. They may have talked to him, but. What he's alluded to is that him not receiving an offer.
Sure.
There's a difference.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Well, still. I mean, it's just unbelievable how we have such trouble retaining talent. We have such commitment phobia to people.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really just crazy.
Speaking of guys who are, it looks like, gone, you saw about Niles Paul, I'm sure, and his reaction to the team kind of letting him know that they're not going to be offering him a contract. I kind of feel bad for him, but he's also, he's a 6th round pick who actually had an okay career
it makes
for 8
sense.
Years.
Exactly, it makes sense. It's kind of sad, but
I'm not even worried about that. So I understand, like when you're at one place for so long, you expect it to be forever because it's just something that you've grown accustomed to. This is your home. So when you find out that they're not going to re-sign you, they're going to let you walk. You're kind of pissed off. So he tweeted some things, said some things. Obviously, it had to be around the time where he found out. So clearly, he was emotional in his response. And I'm not even mad at that. It's just, that's just things that happens. That's things that you say. Obviously, he'll feel better about it. He understands that he has an opportunity in front of him to go somewhere else and pave his own way. So,
sure.
I'm rooting for him.
I mean, I feel bad for guys at a human level. That's all.
Yeah, the biggest thing we're losing is he was on top of his beard game.
Yeah.
Niles Paul had one of the most fabulous beards on the team.
Glorious.
And losing him, it was
beautiful.
Glorious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but from an on-the-field perspective, I mean, what you're losing is a special teams guy.
Yeah.
At this point in his career, he wasn't really contributing much on the offense. The one shot he had was 2015, and that was, to be a starter, and he got hurt.
Right.
He had some bad luck along the way, for sure. But you're losing a special teams warrior, but I think most teams think they can find another one.
Well,
so I feel bad for him, certainly, but at the end of the day, the team can probably do without him.
Yeah, I think his role in special teams was kind of replaced already by Everett and Quentin Dunbar. Those two are kind of now the leaders of the special teams unit for the next couple of years.
Wouldn't surprise me if Dunbar I call it here first. Dunbar is going to be a team captain next year.
I wouldn't be surprised with that either. Captain. But him and I've said it before, man. Him and DeShazier Everett, when they're playing gunner on the punt teams, I love watching them just fly down and tackle guys.
Gunner's rough, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jamal, you ever were a gunner, but it's it's a rough thing. You get really bounced around and
you've got to be a little crazy to do it.
Yeah,
just run full speed into a wall.
Yeah, usually it's linebackers. You throw the middle linebacker out there, and he's the gunner, and a wide receiver like Dunbar, a corner, a little rough.
But they fly.
But anyway, okay, okay. But in terms of priorities, so I don't know if we've concluded anything here today. I mean, they knew. I would be surprised if they aren't in on a receiver somewhere, whether it's Allen Robinson or someone else. If they signed a running back, to me, it's either Carlos Hyde or Isaiah Crowell, or don't bother.
Right.
I like that. We talked about that the other week too. Those guys.
The other thing they could look at is guard. As I've said, I think guard is probably the number one need on the team. The problem with it is if they spend a ton of money on guard, you've got four or five guys on the line making huge money. That's the problem with signing a guard. So, off the top of my head, I think those are the needs. Everybody be patient. The Redskins are not sitting on their hands. They've actually made a lot of moves, and we're going to see some more. So the fact that these trades went down, fine. The Redskins will get theirs.
The last thing I'd say about the free agent market is it sounds like I've seen, just over the last few weeks, every once in a while you see them, they are really interested in this defensive tackle, that defensive tackle. You see, a lot of that kind of talk too. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go free agency for a stud defensive tackle.
I don't know.
Kind of filling that need.
I mean, it's a salary cap problem again.
I understand that.
They've got McLean and McGee both making big money. And are they really going to sign a third one to make big money? That's the problem with it. They the problem is McLean has been a bust.
Yeah, I know.
At least for 1 year. I wouldn't shock me too much if they kind of roll as they are on defensive tackle and just hope that McLean can get it together.
From a money perspective, I understand it, but if I'm thinking about the bigger picture with the team, I would try and move one of them for a marble and
a marble.
I was gonna say, from what I understand, I don't remember who I heard it from. Maybe you. It may have been a conversation with you all that I saw on Twitter. I wasn't in it, but they were saying in terms of either McGee or McLean, the cap hit is pretty rough this year. It would be next year, the year in which they'd have to make a move to get rid of one of them. So
that was me. You saw that was me, and the issue is McLean has a big dead money hit this year, which would prevent the team from cutting him. McGee could be cut this year from a cap perspective.
And he's the one that's been playing better than me than McLean, so I wouldn't even get rid of him.
Yeah, that's my point. So I don't know if they're going to bring in another big money guy when they have those two, and they're basically stuck with McLean for now. And McGee, I don't think you'd want to get rid of him. So bringing in another huge money defensive tackle seems like a stretch to me. I don't anticipate that for that reason.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. In fact, I would be kind of surprised to see them target that with other things.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we had a couple other things on the agenda, but boy, oh boy, guys, did we go hard at this free agency situation. So the other things we had potentially to talk about was talk a little bit more about the combine stuff we didn't get to last week. We also have the free agency cornerbacks piece.
Let's talk combine real fast.
We want to finish up the combine stuff?
Let's do combine.
Any big highlights that came up from the last few days? We did talk a lot about it in the previous episode.
Right.
Well, I mean, the rumor, of course, is that the Redskins like Lamar Jackson. That was the other rumor that went around. I watched him. We talked about him a little bit last week. I mean, I'm a Lamar Jackson fan in terms of his capabilities. It looked like he was kind of trying to push the ball too much on the square out, routes. But I think he's a good quarterback. The question, why the Redskins would be interested in drafting him, just boggles my mind.
Well, the theory that I saw, I think Kime posted this, is you draft him and use him as a weird weapon while you develop him as a quarterback. So, I guess you use him as a third down receiver, running back option thing.
Things sure to go wrong.
Yeah, that's a terrible play.
I wouldn't even imagine how they'd use him, personally.
Yeah.
I think, so... One of the things that I think that the Jaguars a few years back with Denard Robinson, they literally created a position for him. He was a former quarterback at Michigan, by the way. And when he got drafted to the Jaguars, he wasn't going to play quarterback primarily. He was going to be an offensive weapon, and they literally deemed that position for him as offensive weapon. And it was listed like that on the depth chart. But I think when it comes to Lamar Jackson, if the Redskins was to draft him here, it would literally be the same situation.
Yeah.
And I didn't really like how that sounded, per se, because if you drafted him here, there's many other reasons why it would be a bad idea. And I'll be short with my stuff. So basically, you have to first get him to commit to, or make sure that he's okay with this situation. Then you have to assure Alex Smith that his job is safe.
Yeah.
Then you have to convince Dan and Bruce, because it is the higher ups apparently who is interested in him. You have to convince Dan and Bruce to chill the bleep out, because why? All it takes is Alex Smith to have a bad couple of games before they get antsy, and right. Start, putting trying to save their jobs and go with the backup, the rookie, and they may potentially do it for that. And for the sake of the fact that they want some more money. So it's not a good look overall, personally. I'd pass on him.
Yeah, I like him. I'd pass. I mean, by the way, the Denard Robinson thing didn't really work out. Let's say that. They never really found a role for him to be a very significant contributor to the team.
I mean, how many guys have really done this and it's worked out?
Well, I mean, you could say
Antoine Randall L. Maybe
Randall L.
Yeah.
Cordell Stewart with the Steelers,
yeah.
I'd say was worked out. But beyond that, I mean, there's not a lot of them. The other guy was the receiver who the Jaguars drafted about 10 years ago, Jones, but he ended up as a cokehead and snorted his way out of the league.
Yeah,
he was a quarterback. They tried to convert to receiver and do all that weapon stuff, and didn't really work out. Tim Tebow,
but he never converted to anything,
and he never converted. So.
Tebow was a running back for the Jets, wasn't he, for a year or two?
Well,
no,
that's true. The Jets used him in those weird goal line situations, didn't they?
That's like a fullback. Yeah, it's like a fullback. They really did.
Jamal was right. I mean, I don't like the way that sounds.
It's a terrible idea. Yeah.
And I don't they don't need to spend a first-round draft pick on a quarterback this year. I mean, that's crazy. That's insane. I mean, next year, maybe 2020, okay, we'll see how Alex Smith is doing. But this year, it's just a waste.
If you're going to try this experiment, try it with like a 6th round pick, or who's the guy we got from? He played at Navy, and he's like a kick returner.
Keenan Robinson.
Keenan Robinson, yeah.
Keenan Robinson.
That's who you try it with. You don't try it with your 1st round pick.
Yeah.
Hold on, is it Keenan Robinson? Is that the linebacker?
Yeah, Keenan Robinson's the linebacker.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's Keenan.
It's Keenan something. I can't remember either. I know it's Keenan though. His first name is Keenan. The quarterback from Navy.
Yeah.
Give me a second.
We just known Keenan Robinson.
Keenan Reynolds. Keenan Reynolds.
Yeah,
Keenan Reynolds.
Yeah, Reynolds. There.
Keenan Reynolds. Yeah.
You got the initials.
Keenan Robinson used to suplex people when he was tackling them. That was awesome.
He fell off the face.
But no, you're right. I mean, that's the guy you're exactly right. I mean, that's the guy you try it with, is somebody like that. You don't draft somebody in the 1st round to try to create a position for him when you just traded for a quarterback who you're going to pay for at least 3 years.
Right.
That's called that is the dummy's guide to insane roster building.
Right. It's like something you would do if you were like a weird high school team.
Yes.
Can I just say, too, that if Alex Smith has some bad games and the Redskins bench him, Heads will roll.
Oh, yeah.
Someone will die.
Oh, yeah.
That's ridiculous. You could not possibly be stupider. If he has some bad games, he is not the problem.
Yeah.
We know that at least. That's the nice thing about having him. We know he's not really going to be the issue if the team's struggling.
Yeah, and we got to move on. But in terms of combine, also, Vida, what we really wanted to see, I wanted to see was Vida Villa. In the combine, and he pulled a hammy, in the 40, and so we didn't see him. Deron Payne, defensive lineman, looked really, really good in the combine. Looked like he was really smooth in his movements, outstanding athlete. I realize that Payne is the mauler. That's more of the Tom Sula type of thing. But, man, I mean, Payne looked really good. So I think either one of those guys, draft value, positional value aside, sure. I think I'd be very happy with at the top of the draft.
I wouldn't be unhappy with either of them. People are starting to get more and more into the guards now. I'm seeing, at least of our cult following we have, they're really into some of these guards that are coming out.
That's because we have Kyle Kalis right now at the top of the draft.
Right, I know.
At the top of the depth chart.
Yeah. There's a big problem there.
Dear Lord. Okay, so we have a couple other things that we potentially could talk about. We had the free agency quarterback stuff, as well as some Cousins riffing. We are about at an hour. Do you guys?
We can do cornerbacks another time. I mean, real brief, the cornerback thing. If they want to sign a free agent cornerback, Malcolm Butler's at the top of the heap. Tremaine Johnson. With the Rams is another one. Kyle Fuller got franchise tagged or transition tagged, so he's not an option. So Breeland might very well be the best option right now. And if you're talking Fuller slot guy replacement, I think Callahan from the Bears and Patrick Robinson from the Eagles are the two best ones. But I'd like to talk about this Cousins thing first before we.
Well, let's do it. Let's talk about good old kooky Kirk Cousins.
Sure.
What's been going on in the last week, Steve? That's got you so jazzed up.
Where is the Kirk Cousins thanks to DC? Thank you. I love the fans message. Aqib
You thought that was coming, Steve?
Yes.
You really thought that was coming?
Aqib Talib sent that out to people of Denver. A lot of other players, have done that this week.
It's become a normal thing to do for guys when they're in a city for a long time, isn't it?
I think it's completely classless for Cousins not to do that, and maybe he will when he signs a contract.
What's his total payout from the Redskins, Steve? I mean, it's up there.
It's $44 million over the last 2 years.
Right.
Yeah, you owe us a thank you note at least, Kirk. My God.
I mean, some guys take out like full-page ads in the local paper when they do it now, which I've always thought was a
classy
cool
move.
It rubbed me wrong for some reason. I mean, I don't care a heck of a lot because it doesn't really matter. It just rubbed me wrong and struck me as a little spiteful to not, at a minimum, thank the fans for supporting him and blah, blah, blah for the past several years.
Yeah, for all those jerseys they bought and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get exactly where Steve's coming from. Personally, I'm not the type of person who is I'm not saying anyone in this specific group, the Hog Style is, but overall, there are fans online and Twitter, who really obsess over the players of their favorite teams. It doesn't matter how long you've been on the team. You're a Redskin now. You're a Redskin for life in their eyes, and they're going to treat you with much love and respect and all that type of stuff. When it comes to Kirk Cousins, he's been here long enough, and he's been a professional long enough to understand that part. And when you look at players around the league who's been traded already, or they've been released already, they immediately took that time. I wouldn't say like minutes after, but when it started spreading, or they took their time to gather their emotions, maybe offline, they went online and made their thoughts public in terms of how they felt about the organizations, their fans and things like that. And for Kirk to not do that, it didn't bother me because I don't give a damn what players talk about. Really, I personally, emotionally, I don't really care. But if you're not going to thank the fans for your time being there, and show some gratitude, or show that you're thankful for the opportunity to play for these fans, that's an issue. I'm not saying that he's not going to be able to do it like down the road, but at the same time, around the time you found this out, like Aqib Talib, Michael Bennett, things like that. They found out, they said something the same day. You know, it's
a little classless, and this was coming on the heels of the tweet he did send out was mentioning that he's going to get to pick the place he plays football for the first time since 2007. Sure. Well, you know what? Cry me a river. Cry me a river. So you mean to tell me that we should feel sorry for you because you got a scholarship at Michigan State, a Division I scholarship, and you picked that school. Well, congratulations, you worked hard, but you were also genetically blessed to have an elite arm, and then you got drafted into DC. That's such a problem. It really rubbed me wrong that's what we saw from Cousins, was talking about himself when Michael Bennett, as much as I dislike Michael Bennett, he thanked the people of Seattle immediately. Aqib Talib thanked the people of Denver. And then with Cousins, we get, I'm so thankful that I get to be a free agent. Just screw him. I'm tired of it. I'm glad he's gone.
You know who he should be thanking every day is guys like Jay Gruden and Sean McVay and
who made his
career. The people who basically kept on giving him a shot.
Jay Gruden put his career on the line for Kirk Cousins. Right. He made a move that everybody freaked out at over the time by benching. Jay Gruden stood on the table for this man, and I disagreed with the move at the time.
Right.
But he did the right thing, and he laid his career on the line for him. And what do we get? We get, oh, thank God I can be a free agent.
Yeah, thank God I can go play for the Vikings.
Yeah, so screw him.
It's kind of crazy though, because if you think about it, if you remember when Sean McVay took that coaching position, he didn't hesitate to. I think he went on Twitter and said that he owed McVay his coaching, professional career or something like that.
Right.
So it's just kind of funny. You can be naive all you want to, or give somebody the benefit of the doubt. However, don't be foolish. This is a case where you shouldn't be foolish. Like, what you see is what's reality, or what you don't see is reality in the situation. So, that is a problem. I understand where Steve's coming from. Honestly.
Oh, yeah.
We're never going to get Grant and Danny on this show ever if we keep bashing Kirk Cousins. Like this.
Whatever. They got to move on. Yeah. He's hitting the road. Look, I mean, I don't have much more to add to that besides what you guys said. Only, a couple of years back, the knock on him was all mental. He'd throw an interception, then he'd sit on the sideline and kind of sulk about it. I don't think he's the most mentally robust and strong person.
I think he's developed that, but yeah, that's a great point.
Exactly. I just think this doesn't surprise me at all, and it's probably for the best that he goes elsewhere. So, whatever. See you later, Kirk. Enjoyed the $60 million or whatever you made.
Deuces.
Okay. Anything else you want to throw out there before we let folks get back to their good old lives? Nothing. We got nothing.
Should be an exciting week, man. It should be an exciting week of free agency.
As we're talking, Danny Shelton got traded to the Patriots.
There you go.
Yeah, so the Browns made 4 trades in 1.5
days? In less than 48
days.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah, so less than 48 hours. That was the easier way to say it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy. Like and it hasn't even started yet. Like,
can I throw one thing out there real quick before we sign out? Because Danny Shelton brought up a good point. I mean, do we really need a true nose tackle?
I still say yes.
Because that's because Danny Shelton is a true nose tackle. Sure. I say no because, how often is this team really in a 3-4 base?
Exactly.
10 or 15 plays a game?
I'd say somebody that's willing to play it. And the reason why I say that is because the interview I had with AJ Francis last year, he made mention to say that, the defensive ends in this system, thrive the most. It's kind of hard to. And this is why you see Ziggy Hood playing nose a lot, because it's kind of hard to, they don't really volunteer for playing nose. They don't really like playing nose.
Right.
However, Ziggy Hood is the person that is willing to do the dirty work for the team. And, he held his own. You wouldn't say he was great or really good, but, he held his own. So,
is it Francis or Lanier who said they really want to try and take that role on? If they can.
I think it was AJ Francis, I believe.
Okay. Yeah,
he said
I think.
I say
Lanier in a nose tackle.
I mean, my thinking is you need one. I know it's not a glorious position like you're saying, Steve, but
it's not about glory. It's about usage of a roster spot.
You still need
Jay Gruden likes
15 plays.
Yeah, but Jay Gruden likes
still a quarter of your downs.
Jay likes versatile guys, and a true nose tackle is not versatile.
No, obviously.
If we're talking true, that's what 15, 20 plays a game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's my point.
That's a quarter to one-third of your plays on defense.
Terrence Knighton was the last guy we had, and he was barely on the field.
Right, but we also, our defense was a little bit better when we at least had somebody.
I didn't mean to start a whole thing at the end of the show. I'm sorry. But I throw that out there because I think that's another question that's on people's minds, is not just interior defensive line, but specifically nose tackle.
I think if you're not going to get one, then you got to commit to just going back to the 4-3 because it doesn't work. There's no point in even calling yourself a 3-4 if you don't have one.
Well, they have the middle linebackers we have are definitive 3-4 middle linebackers right now is the thing.
And so are the ends, are the outside linebackers.
We don't have a true 4-3 middle linebacker on the roster.
We don't have a 4-3 defensive end right now either.
No, we don't. It's the linebackers are 3-4 guys. Yeah. That's a problem.
Well, this is something we should probably get back into next week then. I mean, if there's more to discuss about it, we can certainly do that.
Or we could babble on for a whole other hour about this if we wanted.
I don't know. My mom texted me and she's trying to buy a computer, so I apparently need to give her a call.
Yeah, plus we made up for the 3 minutes of breakfast talk at the beginning already.
Tell your mom to wait.
Yeah.
Tell your mom to wait. You're doing a show right now,
that's what I texted her. I said, I'm recording. I'll call you.
Pump your brakes, Mom. All right, cool. Well, we will let y'all get back to your lives. Have fantastic weekends. Keep checking back on thehogsty.com for all the written content we'll get to you this week. Make sure you're clicking over to our sponsors at ticketclub.com as well. See you next time. Take care.